Yo guys, it's Mike from Chess Lifestyle, and today we are training, probably not 46 minutes because as you guys probably are aware, I am still competing in the Dortmund Open. So today we're actually playing a WFM, although okay, she hasn't officially claimed her title, but she's actually far stronger. Like she recently gained 200 rating points in Blitz, crushing a bunch of Grandmasters and taking her FIDE rating up to 2400. So it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be one hell of a challenge. But ultimately, okay, she's on 2.5 out of 4, the same as I am. So doesn't necessarily mean like, she's completely invincible. But yeah, it's going to be a very tough fight. And okay, I've done my prep. Yeah, like it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a challenge, right? So what we definitely need to do if we're playing such a tactically strong blitz monster is probably we should get sharp ourselves, right? Like try and train some tactics. So that's exactly what we're gonna do. So we're still on Aliekin, this woodpecker, and let's give this a shot. Okay, so we've got 2 rooks, a bishop, and a queen. They've got 2 rooks, a bishop, a knight, and a queen, so they've got an extra piece. But we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we've got 2 pawns for a piece. But what else can we note? Okay, the king's safety is a big factor. I mean, our king definitely seems a lot safer, even though it's a little bit exposed on this open f2 square. Ultimately, black doesn't have a dark squared bishop, so only the queen can potentially use it. And in contrast, I'd say black's king is looking quite weak. The queen and bishop are very close by. The rook on g3 is also pitting the pawn to the king. Oh, one thing I should mention as well, yesterday I lost, right? I lost to this close to 2400 player. And yeah, I'm kind of picking up on a mistake or weakness that I tend to do, which is if I've been playing like a decent game where I'm slightly worse for a really long time, I thought I had really good skills at this, but I actually have the tendency to lash out at my first kind of sight of some dynamic kind of counterplay. And I think often if I just kind of like keep it together and I just keep defending, that can actually be better. So for instance, in my game, it's on the live board, so you can see it as round 4, board 14, I think. Basically, I had this decision to whether to go aggressive with knight g5 or I could have gone passive with knight g1. And I saw that they both kind of defend, but I felt like knight g5 was just a more active move that had some extra possibilities, but unfortunately I miscalculated, and actually knight g5 is losing for multiple reasons, and I basically calculated very poorly there. And I think it was to do with the fact that I also wanted the move to work, and again allowing these emotions to kind of cloud my calculation. So yeah, so basically, yeah, this decision making needs to be improved. I need to basically be objective about the calculation, understand that knight g5 is not working, and play knight g1. I needed to have this understood. But okay, let's try and solve this. So okay, anything else we need to note? Maybe the rook on f1 can join in the attack as well. Our king has a flight score on h2. Also, welcome Panda Chess Tamil. Welcome. But yeah, let's have a look. So, what candidate moves do we have? We've got rook takes g7 check. We've got a bunch of queen checks: queen g7, queen h7, queen h8. And those are all the checks. What captures do we have? We've got bishop takes g7. We've got, well, rook takes g7, we mentioned already. And any threats? Mm. Don't quite see what threats we can make. Maybe a move like bishop e7. That threatens mate in 1, right? Bishop e7, rook f8 is mate in 1, so that's a threat. Any others? No, so okay, let's start by looking at our checks. So okay, if we play rook g7, knight takes g7 is probably forced. I mean, rook g7. If they move the king, they get checkmated. Rook g7. If queen g7, bishop g7. If they take on h6, bishop takes h6. We win a pawn in that line. So it doesn't look great for black. So maybe let's look at rook g7, knight g7 first. And is there an immediate win? Do we see how this wins? Rook g7, knight g7. Bishop takes g7, but then rook takes h6, and it's not really working. Yeah, I don't quite see it. So okay, what else do we have? We've got queen h8, got queen h7. Do these lead to anything at all? Really don't think so. Rook queen takes g7, knight takes g7 again. Again, doesn't quite seem to work. What about bishop takes g7 at the start? Bishop g7. If queen takes, well then rook takes g7 with check, and we pick up a queen. So bishop takes g7. If they were to take our queen, rook takes h6, then we have rook f8 check, king h7, rook h8 checkmate. So that looks very promising. So bishop g7, I feel like knight takes g7 is needed. And then what do we have? I was looking at the luring kind of tactics with queen h8 check. What is the correct word for luring? These like bishop g7, knight g7, queen h8. It's a deflection, but I don't know. There's a special term for it, but I can't remember. Bishop g7, knight g7, queen h8. But then king takes h8, rook f8, king h7, and they escape. So bishop g7, knight g7. What about if we try rook f8 instead? King takes f8, queen h8 check. Then on either king f7 or king d6, we can go rook takes g7 check. And let's say they've gone king e7. They actually don't have the d6 square because our pawn is controlling this, right? So then I think it really is this, right? Where we can go knight, rook f8, king takes, queen check. And yeah, we can actually take with the rook. Rook is better, of course, because then we keep control of the back rank, and this is checkmate. So bishop g7, are there any other candidate moves? Do they have any checks? Yes. We should always consider like if these checks change anything. But here we just go h1 or h2. I don't think it matters. Maybe h2 is better. H1. And has that changed anything? Maybe now they can go rook takes. But here that other rook is hanging like this. Like I don't really believe in it. So are there any more moves I had to consider here? Knight takes, and we said rook f8, right? Yeah, I think bishop takes g7 is winning. Yeah, so they took with the knight, and this was where we had rook f8 as the idea. And then rook g7 is mate. Okay, nice. That felt very confident. I'm glad to see we're somewhat seeing tactics this morning, which isn't always a given. Okay, let's do the next one. Also, I finally got round to updating the YouTube members list, where Josh is now a Mikhail Tau rat, and I also updated the end screen to show the different tiers of YouTube member. So maybe that makes a bit more sense now. People can understand the different tiers of member, and yeah, the logic behind it is we're training tactics, and Mikhail Tau is a tactician, right? So this was the concept. Okay, so yeah, let's do one more. So we've got queen rook rook knight bishop, queen, rook, rook, knight, bishop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so we've got equal material. What about the king's safety? Okay, their king is not castled. They also can't castle. The queen is covering f1. Our king is much safer, but okay, maybe some potential for some back rank one day. We always got to be a bit careful of that. Anything else to note? Pawn structure, we've got like symmetrical pawn structure, but okay, the actual shape of the pawns are quite different. Like their e3 pawn is backwards, our c6 pawn is backwards. Also, our queen is hanging right now, so we're going to lose a queen if we're not careful. So okay, let's have some thoughts. I mean, maybe the bishop on c7 is a bit loose, but probably not relevant. It's probably going to be to do with the king. Our rooks are ready to join in, our bishop's ready to join in. Can the knight join in any way? Maybe knight takes c5, protects the queen and is strong. So okay, we've got some ideas. So let's have a think. So candidate moves, what checks do we have? We've got queen takes d2, queen e2, queen f1, queen e3. We've also got bishop h4 check, and those are all the checks. In terms of captures, we've got this knight takes c5, as I mentioned. We've got rook takes c3, which also protects the queen. Bishop takes d4 does not protect the queen, so I doubt it's going to be that. And to be honest, that feels like enough. Like maybe we want like a safe retreating move of the queen. Maybe like queen a6, still preventing white castling and you know not losing the game, right? So queen a6 as a backup could be considered. But I feel like one of these moves is probably working. So let's have a look. So let's start with our checks. Queen f1, queen e2, these make no sense. Queen e3. Also, queen takes, and I don't see the continuation. Queen takes d2, rook, king takes d2. Maybe this is playable, but I don't see our advantage anymore because ultimately the king being in the center is weaker when there are queens on the board. Like as soon as the queens trade, the king might actually be useful in the center of the board. So, yeah, in this position, I don't like the checks. What about bishop h4 check? Bishop h4 check, what about g3? Maybe they just block with g3 and we don't have a follow-up here. Maybe after bishop h4, pawn g3, maybe now rook takes c3 is an idea. Maybe this could be something as well. But then I wonder, is bishop h4 useful at all? So let's first calculate our captures and see like how rook takes c3 works in this position. Like maybe there's no need to allow our bishop to be hanging on h4, right? So okay, we'll keep bishop h4 in the back of our mind. Like remember what we're trying to do is calculate lots of short variations as opposed to like doing it so thoroughly at this stage and just try and come to a conclusion. Welcome Frizz to the stream. Hello. So yeah, if rook c3 as a capture, what can we understand about this move? So first of all, we win a knight by capturing. And what options do we have? If they take our queen, we take back and we are up a piece. If we go rook takes c3 and they take our rook with their queen, we go queen takes c3, rook c3, rook a1. And wherever the king moves, we can take on h1 and we win a rook. So rook c3, what if they take with the rook c3, rook takes c3? Maybe here we go rook a1 check again, but then they can block rook c1. And I don't see how we win that. So rook c3, I think can be met by rook takes c3. So let's have a look at this bishop h4 check again that we had this idea of. Bishop h4 check g3, rook takes c3. Can they still play rook c3? I feel like they can, right? I don't think the bishop on h4 has changed anything. So then comes our idea of knight takes c5, which was this capture which looked very promising. Because if they try and trade queens, then I take back, and not only did I win a pawn, I also win the exchange, right? I have a fork on d3. So knight takes c5. And then here, if pawn takes c5, I'm down a piece for a pawn. Maybe here I can go bishop takes c3, which again would force rook takes c3. And this time I can go rook takes c3. And in that position, I think... Wait, knight takes c5, pawn takes c5, bishop takes c3, rook takes c3, rook takes c3. I'm already up the exchange in that line. And I won a pawn. So I think in that case, that's looking very promising. So knight c5, are there any other candidates? No, I really don't think so. So pawn takes c5, bishop takes c3. Do they have any alternatives here? Bishop takes c3. They don't have any checks. They can't take the queen because it's pinned on d2. Their queen is pinned. Yep, this looks like the answer. So we can go for it. So you see how, like, when I solve this tactic, I make sure to thoroughly calculate the move I'm actually going to play. But for the rest, I just shallow calculate, because ultimately, if it's not working, then you don't need to have seen everything to completion. So this is the logic here. No way. Alekhine messed up here? Or what? Wait. Oh, Alekhine was white, so Alekhine got wrecked. No way. So in this position, bishop d6 was an attempt, but after rook c3 is completely lost. Damn. These world championships be losing games. That's wild. Okay, knight takes c5 is the move spoiler. Nice. Okay, good job. Okay, let's maybe do one final one, and then I think I'm gonna head to my game. We're actually feeling quite sharp this morning, so this is fantastic. Okay, so what's going on here? Bishop, bishop, knight, knight, rook, queen, rook, queen, 3, 4, 7, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So same material, but we have a bishop pair. They have a knight and bishop, or they have the pair of knights. We also have a slightly weaker pawn structure, but in this case, it's actually somewhat interesting because we have the open B file as compensation for the doubled pawns. And, the double pawns are not isolated, they're in a clump, so this d4 pawn is, like, secured a bit more. Okay, what else to note? Okay, our bishops are lined up against their king somewhat. Our queen is on the line of their king. Our knight is also getting ready to maybe potentially sacrifice. The downside is our knight is actually being attacked. Our king is feeling a lot safer. So yeah, in this position, what candidate moves do we have? So what checks do we have? We've got knight f6 check. What captures do we have? We've got knight takes g7, maybe bishop g6, rook takes e7, queen c7 makes no sense. What threats do we have? Okay, so any move that potentially disrupts the opponent's defense. So this includes bishop h6, and any others. Yeah, I don't really see any other threats. And maybe a safe move could be a move like knight f4, right? Like, we just don't lose the piece. So it's always good to have backups, like if this was a real game. Okay, so let's have a look at, let's calculate, right? So knight f6 check. Okay, they have to take, otherwise we are forking the king queen. So knight f6, pawn takes f6. And in this position, I don't see anything. I don't see a way we can bring in our pieces. Knight f6, pawn f6, rook e7 doesn't really help. So, okay. What about our captures then? If we look at knight g7, again, we're attacking the rook. I feel like they probably need to take us. If they take us, do we have a follow-up? Again, doesn't feel so right. Queen c7, obviously not. Bishop g6. Again, doesn't feel so good. Just pawn takes g6 seems to be enough. Like h takes g6. So I want to jump to this. Okay, I guess rook takes e7 as well, but it doesn't make much sense, right? The knight can always take back, and how has their defense got any worse? I don't believe it. So bishop h6, I'm kind of banking on this one idea, because bishop h6 is quite cute in the sense that if bishop takes h5, then queen g7 is checkmate. So bishop h6, We also have a threat. We are threatening to take on g7 with a knight and win a pawn and disrupt the opponent's defense. So bishop h6, what if they play a move like knight f5? We can go bishop takes f5, and if they go queen takes f5, we can still take on g7. It's a little bit interesting. I mean, maybe they can capture on c2. Feels quite messy. But also, I think we just need to be thorough with this because we've got nothing else to consider, and if this is our best bet, then it's our best bet. I mean, we've got to compare it to the safe move knight f4. Like, if knight f4 is better than entering these complications, then we just got to take the L and play knight f4. But bishop h6, what else can they do? I think knight f5 is actually forced. I don't see another way they can defend g7. So bishop h6, knight f5. Do we have any other options here? Bishop h6, knight f5. Do we have to take on f5? I feel like we do. I guess we can throw in rook takes e8 if we want the rook to be on e8 from a tactical standpoint. In positionally, we obviously don't want to encourage their rook to be open file, but maybe the rook on e8 is vulnerable. So knight f5, bishop f5, or rook takes e8, maybe knight f6 check. Yeah, lots of options here. But okay, is there at least a safe option here that's better than knight f5? So if bishop h6, knight f5, we go bishop takes f5, and they go queen takes f5, we can probably go knight takes g7. And if they take on c2, I reckon we can argue the fact that, well, firstly, their rook's hanging, so they'd need to play rook takes e1 check, rook takes e1 first, and then queen takes c2, and we take on g7. Maybe we can argue the fact that their king is weaker, and that is more significant than our c2 pawn being lost. The only issue is that once the c2 pawn is lost, the c3, the a2 pawn, the whole structure falls apart once that queen enters. So really nothing here. Bishop h6, knight f5. Maybe, is there an alternative here? What if we play rook takes e8 first, rook takes e8, now bishop takes f5, and if queen takes f5, knight takes g7 hits the rook. So they have to spend another move moving the rook. Oh, and it's not even just hitting the rook, it's actually giving a fork. So then I think this rook takes e8 is an important inclusion. So in that case, if knight f5 is forced, and we've got rook takes e8, they can take with the queen, but they can't, because then we can go bishop takes and give checkmate. So they have to take back with the rook, in which we can go knight g7. And this should be a winning advantage. So okay, we got it. But I think we had to be that thorough to find rook e8. But now they can throw in rook takes e1, queen takes f5. Alright, let's find out. They're probably just going to take back on f5. No, they do this. So, okay, we have to take back. And now, okay, then apparently there's something better here, right? I mean, I was pretty happy with what I'd seen. Like, I feel like if the answer is knight takes g7 and then queen takes c2 and they just say I'm winning or something, I feel like it's much less clear than my alternative. Yeah, like to me even here, I don't see the win. Like, knight takes g7, queen takes c2. Maybe knight takes g7, queen c2, rook e8, rook takes c8, knight takes e8, and then we've got threats of knight f6. But also, okay, we've got back rank problems as well. So what am I missing here? Okay, let's think of our checks. Let's think of our captures. We have knight f6 check. They can go queen takes f6. I don't see a follow-up. What captures do we have? We can take on g7 in two different ways. The problem with bishop takes g7, I feel like we can never really throw in knight f6 because then our bishop is no longer protected. So that's why I didn't feel that this was so good. Queen takes c7 now, but our knight is hanging. I bet it's just going to say knight g7. I don't think it's just going to say this is correct. Yeah, queen c2. Black has won his pawn back, but his king position is in ruins. Yeah, this is what I thought might be the case, but I don't think this is better than what I played. So what did I miss in my analysis? What did I miss? So bishop h6, knight f5, and here rook e8. So rook e8. Okay, I don't care that the engine says there's +1 difference. Let's see. Yeah, rook e8, bishop f5, queen f5, and knight g7 is completely winning, right? So actually, I think it's actually bad of them to say this is inaccurate. Okay, queen e7. You need to see this resource. Okay, maybe this is actually a bit testing then, because, you know, I've got these back rank problems, but let's say, I mean, f4 feels kind of weird. I guess you control this e1 square. Yeah, and I guess this position remains complicated because now actually they can take on h6. And what's the material situation like? Materials equal, and you've got to find this crazy move bishop d7. What the hell is bishop d7? That's a ridiculous find. The point being is you distract the queen and then you've got knight f6. And on h4, again this gh6, and you need to find... Okay, this is still playable. Just you move the knight. But I guess you don't have as much of an advantage. The only advantage you've really achieved is weakening these pawns. But yeah, compared to what was played in the game, this bishop f5, rook e1, rook e1, queen f5, knight g7, queen takes c2. I feel like this is not so easy to evaluate. Like the fact that engine is just saying h3 is just playable. Are you not... the queen is still protecting c3. I think I overlooked this. And I guess queen takes a2 is like, moving the queen away from the defense of the king. And now we can have some ideas of this knight e8, knight f6 idea. Yeah, I can't believe how this could be strong. Or actually, yeah, better than h3 is to play h4, right? And you've even got this extra threat. Now queen a2 is probably even worse. So I think had I seen that the c3 pawn was protected, then maybe I could have gone for this a bit with more confidence. But yeah, this is actually really tough. Okay, so bishop h6. Georgius, I don't see your... Oh no, I do see your chat, yeah. It's bishop h6, right. Yeah, you got positionally squeezed yesterday. Yeah, like it was a tough game. I mean, I really thought that I could hold this kind of Caro-Kann structure, but it turns out like his dark squared bishop was just really, really powerful once it rerouted itself from g7. So this was a very instructive lesson for me. But still, I'm kind of disappointed with myself of how I self-destructed with my knight g5 move. Like, it's just really unnecessary. I had ways to play on. I saw knight g1 as a resource. Interestingly, though, in our post-game analysis, I didn't even mention knight g1 because I was almost feeling this embarrassment of suggesting a move like knight g1, even though it was engine's top move. It's really weird. It's really weird. Like how like knight g1 was a serious candidate because I didn't see the win. I just thought knight g5 was even better. I thought that gave me some like chances to turn the tables, but actually it's just too loose and I need to just calculate more accurately. So yeah, I agree. It was a very instructive game. Yeah. Queen e7 engine says, wow. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, really tough find there. But okay, on the whole, okay, we got 2.5 out of 3, I would say. And this is definitely, a decent start for the day. I will have some lunch. I will head over, um, and play my round. And I need all of the luck in the world because I'm playing super talented, super strong player. Might even be my strongest opponent yet, to be honest. Even though her rating is only 2185 or something, like I really think she's on top form and like playing super well. So okay, I'm gonna just try and play my best. Focus on everything I've been working on, and yeah, fingers crossed we have a good game. Also, welcome to Space Lee. Unfortunately, I am finishing the stream for today. So thanks for joining in. Happy birthday, Arif. Congrats on being one more year wiser than the last. And okay, see you guys all in tomorrow's stream. Okay.